Also known as Mary Stuart, Mary was born on December 8, 1542, in Linlithgow Palace, Scotland, to King James V and Mary of Guise. She was thought to be born prematurely. Mary was just 6 days old when her father passed away. She was the only legitimate child to survive and was crowned Queen of Scots. The Parliament of England approved the Third Succession Act in 1543. Elizabeth I was chosen as the successor of Mary I of England, the oldest child of Henry VIII. On November 17, 1558, Mary passed away and Elizabeth became queen. Henry V's last will and testament excluded the Stuarts from inheriting the English throne. Their conflict resulted from Mary's ambitions for the English crown. When Elizabeth succeeded to the throne, she restored Protestantism as England's recognized religion, but that did not limit the presence of Catholics in the nation. Considering that Mary is a Catholic, the majority of Catholics believed that Mary, Queen of Scots, was the lawful ruler of England. Mary was accused of killing her second husband. She was put imprisoned and forced to surrender the throne for her son and leave Scotland for England. Mary traveled to England in an effort to gain Queen Elizabeth's support for her attempt to reclaim control of Scotland. In 1568, following her arrival in England, she was stunned to learn that she was being held captive. She was imprisoned for 19 years under the command of her cousin, Elizabeth I. She was considered a threat to the throne. Elizabeth I became the target of several attempts and rebellions. Roberto Ridolfi, a Florentine banker residing in London, created the initial plan. The authorities discovered it in 1571. The plan was for ousting Elizabeth and replacing Mary as a queen with Thomas Howard, Duke of Norfolk, using Spanish soldiers from the Netherlands. In 1572, Norfolk was proven to have committed treason and executed. Despite the fact that Mary was involved in the conspiracy, Elizabeth refused to put her on trial. The Babington Plot was a 1586 plan to kill Queen Elizabeth I and replace her cousin Mary, Queen of Scots, as ruler of England. Anthony Babington detailed the plan to rescue Mary in a letter he wrote in 1586. Babington requested Mary's approval in the letter to kill Elizabeth. Mary replied and agreed with the preparations, but she did not give the assassination her approval. Francis Walsingham, Elizabeth's intelligence chief and Secretary of State, had already gotten access to Mary's connection. Reading Mary's personal letters provided Walsingham with the proof he needed to convince Elizabeth to put Mary imprisoned and put her on trial. It led to Mary's execution because of a letter she sent in which she agreed to Elizabeth's assassination. On August 11, 1586, she was detained, and a trial was held in October. After a ton of evidence was presented against her, Mary was found guilty of trying to kill the Queen as part of Babington's plan. Her own signature on secret letters cost her life. The Privy Council and Parliament proceeded in pressuring Elizabeth to have Mary put to death. Because most of these plots centered on her, however, Elizabeth was reluctant to execute a fellow queen. Elizabeth made a difficult decision for 4 long months before approving Mary's execution at Greenwich. On the evening of February 7, 1587, Mary received word that she would be put to death the next morning in Fotheringhay Castle. Elizabeth was forced to execute Mary in accordance with the law. On February 8, 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots, was executed for treason. She spent her final hours in prayer, giving her possessions to her family, writing her will, and writing a letter to the King of France. In the Great Hall, a scaffold had been built and covered in black fabric. There were 2 or 3 steps to get there, furthermore equipped with a block, a cushion on which she might kneel, together with 3 stools for her. In front of her, the executioner Bull and his assistant begged for forgiveness because it was traditional for the person being executed to beg for forgiveness. "I forgive you from the bottom of my heart," Mary answered, hoping that this will put an end to all of my problems. Jane Kennedy, Elizabeth Corral, and the executioners assisted Mary in taking off her external clothing, uncovering a velvet petticoat and pair of sleeves in crimson brown, the Catholic Church's liturgical color of martyrdom, with a black satin bodice and black trimmings. Mary smiled and remarked that she had never before had such grooms or taken off her clothes in front of such a company. Kennedy placed a white veil with gold embroidery around her eyes, blindfolded her, and had her kneel in front of the block with her arms outstretched. "In thine hands, O Lord, I commit my spirit," were her last words. Despite being cousins, Mary, Queen of Scots, and Queen Elizabeth I never met. King James VI of Scotland accepted his mother's execution, and after Queen Elizabeth I died in 1603, he became King of England, Scotland, and Ireland.